Some discoveries don't just make headlines, they send chills down your spine. Deep within Africa's most remote regions, archaeologists and explorers have uncovered ancient rituals, bizarre artifacts, and haunting burial practices that left the world stunned. From mysterious masks to spine-chilling tombs, here are 15 creepy African tribal discoveries that absolutely terrified the world. 1. Bondo apes. When researchers found strange skulls in the forests of the Congo, they assumed they belonged to gorillas. But there was a problem. There were no known gorillas in that area. This puzzling discovery sparked curiosity and speculation, leading to the search for the mysterious Bondo apes. Unlike typical apes, these creatures are said to walk upright and can reach the height of a grown man. They have features of both chimpanzees and gorillas, making them a unique mix. Like gorillas, they build nests on the ground, but like chimpanzees, they also make them in trees. Their diet mainly consists of fruits, especially strangler figs. Physically, Bondo apes, also known as billy apes, are striking. When standing on two legs, they measure between 5 and 5.5 feet tall. They have flat faces, wide mouths, pronounced eyebrow ridges, and a noticeable crest on their skulls. Like chimpanzees, they turn grey early in life, but unlike gorillas, they lose their hair as they age. These apes also show remarkable intelligence. They use stones to crack open tough fruits, snails, and termite nests, an ability that highlights their advanced problem-solving skills. Despite these fascinating traits, much about the Bondo apes remains unknown, including how many of them exist in the wild. 2. The cannibal tribes of the Congo. Still in Congo, stories have long circulated about tribes that practiced ritual cannibalism. When Western explorers and missionaries arrived in the 19th century, they were horrified by what they claimed to witness. As Belgian colonizers pushed further into the region, they documented tribes like the Azanda and Mangbetu, who were said to consume human flesh, not just in times of famine, but as part of ceremonies meant to absorb the strength and spirit of their enemies. This wasn't random violence, but a deeply structured ritual. Tribal elders oversaw the process, believing that eating certain body parts granted special abilities: the heart for courage, the brain for wisdom, the hands for skill. European reports describe large communal feasts where captives from rival villages were cooked in clay pots alongside cassava and plantains. Their bones, rather than being discarded, were turned into jewelry and musical instruments. Some anthropologists now believe these accounts may have been exaggerated by colonizers to justify their brutal rule. However, archaeological evidence, including human remains with cut marks matching butchering techniques, suggests there was truth to these stories. Even more chilling are reports that powerful tribal leaders kept living food, slaves raised on special diets, only to be consumed in future ceremonies. The practice allegedly continued in remote areas into the 20th century, with the last recorded cases emerging during civil wars in the 1990s. Some militia groups were said to have revived these ancient rituals to spread fear and keep control over terrified populations. 3. The zombification rituals of West Africa. Hidden within the shadows of ordinary village life across parts of Benin, Togo, and rural Haiti exists the terrifying practice of creating real-life zombies, a process that Western scientists initially dismissed as superstition until disturbing evidence began to emerge in the late 20th century. Powerful voodoo sorcerers select victims who have violated social norms or angered someone willing to pay for revenge, carefully preparing complex toxins derived from pufferfish, poisonous toads, and specific plants that contain tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin so potent it can induce a death-like state while leaving the victim conscious but completely paralyzed. The victim appears to die suddenly and mysteriously, displaying no pulse and minimal breathing, leading to their burial by grieving family members unaware of the terrible fate awaiting their loved one. Under cover of darkness, the voodoo sorcerer returns to exhume the still living victim, who has experienced the full horror of their own funeral and burial while trapped in their immobile body. The sorcerer then administers a second potion containing potent hallucinogens, dissociatives, and plant compounds that create permanent brain damage, destroying the person's will and memory, while keeping basic bodily functions intact. These zombies become the property of their creator, labouring on remote farms without complaint or rest, their vacant eyes and shuffling movements striking terror into anyone who encounters them. Harvard ethnobotanist Wade Davis documented several cases in his controversial research, including the famous case of Clairvios Narcisse, who returned to his village 18 years after his funeral, recognised by family members through a childhood scar. 4. The Leopard Men Cult of Congo. The dense forests of Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the Congo Basin once trembled with fear at the mere whisper of Anyoto. The dreaded leopard men, whose reign of terror stretched from the late 1800s until the 1950s, leaving a trail of mutilated bodies and traumatised communities in their wake. These secretive cult members dressed in leopard skins and wore specially crafted metal claws strapped to their hands, allowing them to tear their victims apart in a manner resembling leopard attacks. This clever disguise initially fooled colonial authorities into believing actual leopards were responsible for the killings. Initiates underwent terrifying rituals, sometimes drinking blood mixed with special herbs from human skulls, believing this granted them supernatural abilities to transform partly into leopards or become invisible when committing their gruesome murders. The cult operated with strict hierarchies and complex codes, targeting specific victims chosen by tribal elders, often as punishment for violating sacred traditions or to eliminate rivals, but sometimes simply to spread terror and demonstrate power. Their attacks followed precise patterns. Victims were ambushed from behind, their throats slashed before their bodies were ritualistically mutilated, with particular organs removed for use in further magical ceremonies. Colonial records describe entire villages abandoned in panic after leopard men attacks, with residents too terrified to venture outside after sunset. When Belgian authorities finally infiltrated the cult in the 1930s, they discovered its membership included respected community leaders, powerful chiefs, and even some colonial employees, revealing a vast network that had committed hundreds of murders throughout Central Africa. Archaeological excavations in the 1970s uncovered secret chambers beneath village shrines containing leopard costumes, ritual weapons stained with human blood, and records of victims dating back generations. 5. The Juju child sacrifices in Uganda. Beneath modern Uganda lies a dark and terrifying reality. Some traditional witchcraft practitioners still perform child sacrifices, believing it brings wealth, power, and good fortune. Despite government crackdowns, this gruesome practice continues in secret. These witch doctors, called muyaye, often target children with specific traits, those with dark skin, birthmarks, or from certain clans believed to have stronger spiritual energy. According to police reports and survivor accounts, the children are kidnapped and sometimes kept alive for days as rituals are performed. The method of killing depends on what the client wants. Tongues are taken for political influence, genitals for wealth, and hearts for protection or justice. What makes this even more horrifying is that the people ordering these sacrifices aren't always criminals or outcasts. Many are respected members of society, businessmen looking for success, politicians seeking election wins, or even parents desperate to cure a sick child. They pay large sums to have these rituals carried out. Some children who escaped describe being taken to hidden shrines decorated with red cloths, animal skulls, and strange symbols. Before the intended killing, they were forced to drink mixtures of blood and herbs. Child protection groups estimate that dozens of children vanish every year for these rituals. Many bodies are later found buried at construction sites, beneath new businesses, or at crossroads, places believed to boost the spiritual power of the sacrifice and bring fortune to those who paid for it. 6. The mysterious skeletons of Kenya's Cave of the Dead. Deep in the winding Panga Yasaidi cave system on Kenya's eastern coast, archaeologists in 2017 uncovered a chilling secret. They had set out to study the 78,000-year-old burial of a child, the oldest known human burial in Africa. But what they found went far beyond a single grave. Beneath layers of sediment, they uncovered a hidden chamber filled with the skeletons of children and young adolescents, all bound in unnatural positions with what appeared to be ancient plant fibers. Even more disturbing, their skulls showed signs of trepanation, holes drilled into the bone while they were still alive, suggesting they endured painful rituals before death. The remains spanned thousands of years, showing this wasn't an isolated event, but a long-standing practice carried out by an unknown ancient culture. Isotope analysis revealed the children weren't local. They had been brought from regions hundreds of miles away, pointing to an organized system of collection or trade. Among the remains, archaeologists found stone tablets covered in strange symbols that have yet to be deciphered. These carvings seem to depict astronomical events alongside human sacrifices, hinting that the killings were timed with celestial alignments, possibly as offerings to mysterious gods. Some researchers believe this cave holds evidence of a lost prehistoric religion that may have shaped later African spiritual traditions. Others are unsettled by the fact that similar symbols have been found in modern witchcraft materials seized from illegal shrines, raising the eerie possibility that these ancient rituals have survived in secret through countless generations. 7. The human skulls of the Asmat tribe. The fearsome Asmat tribe built a reputation that struck terror into neighbouring communities and later horrified Western explorers who stumbled upon their settlements and witnessed their most sacred traditions centred around the collection and ritual use of human skulls. When tribal warriors successfully raided enemy villages, they didn't simply kill their opponents. They carefully removed the heads, scooping out the brains and eyes before meticulously cleaning the skulls through a secret process involving beetles, fire, and special herbs that preserved the bone while removing all flesh and hair, transforming them into ritual objects believed to contain the power and spirit of the deceased. These weren't merely trophies, but essential spiritual tools used in elaborate ceremonies where tribal elders would drink palm wine and blood mixtures from the cranial caps of their most formidable enemies, believing this transferred the strength, courage, and skills of the dead into their own bodies and souls. Young warriors earned their place in the tribe by bringing back skulls, with their status determined by the quality and quantity of their grisly collection. Some respected elders accumulating dozens throughout their lifetime. The most unsettling discovery made by researchers was finding entire ceremonial houses built with human skull foundations, the eye sockets of hundreds of victims staring outward in eternal witness to ongoing rituals. Their jawbones fashioned into weapons and musical instruments used to summon ancestral spirits during night ceremonies that outsiders were forbidden to witness under penalty of becoming the next skull in the collection. When Dutch explorers attempted to end these practices in the mid-20th century, they found the tradition had gone underground rather than disappeared, with secret skull repositories hidden in cave systems and evidence suggesting that as recently as the 1970s, visiting researchers or missionaries who vanished were transformed into ceremonial vessels for the tribe's most sacred drinks. 8. The haunting cursed dolls of Nigeria. Scattered across abandoned villages in Nigeria's dense forests are collections of handmade dolls that local people refuse to touch, approach, or even look at directly, believing them to be vessels containing trapped human souls and malevolent spirits capable of bringing unimaginable misfortune to anyone foolish enough to disturb them from their silent vigil. These dolls, crafted from wood, clay, bone fragments, human hair, and cloth soaked in mysterious substances, appear in seemingly abandoned doorways overnight without explanation. Their blank eyes and stitched mouths concealing the identities of those who place them, but clearly communicating a warning that even modern Nigerians with university educations and smartphones take seriously enough to abandon homes and reroute roads to avoid. Unlike ordinary children's toys, these figures contain hidden compartments filled with small scrolls bearing names written in blood, fingernail clippings, teeth, and other biological materials that witch doctors claim bind the spirit of a specific person to the doll, allowing the creator to inflict suffering on their target from a distance, or more terrifyingly, trap the soul of someone recently deceased to prevent them from finding peace in the afterlife. Villagers speak in whispers about the doll plague that swept through the Niger Delta region in the 1980s, when hundreds of families reported finding these figures on their property, followed by unexplainable illnesses, financial ruin, and in over 40 documented cases, the mysterious deaths of family members whose bodies were found contorted in positions matching those of the dolls, left as warnings. Most disturbing are the reports from Nigerian police archives describing dolls that appeared to move between visits from investigators, changing position slightly, or being found in different locations despite no one admitting to touching them, with several officers requesting transfers after witnessing one doll's glass eyes seemingly track their movements during an evidence collection procedure, in a case that remains officially unsolved, but locally attributed to the work of a particularly powerful witch doctor, whose identity remains protected by fearful silence. 9. The walking mummies of the Dogon tribe. Hidden in the remote cliffs and caves of Mali, the enigmatic Dogon tribe maintains one of Africa's most terrifying funerary customs, the creation of walking mummies through a secret process that preserves the bodies of tribal elders and priests in such a way that they appear to move and change position long after death, creating the illusion that the deceased continue to participate in tribal affairs from beyond the grave. When an important Dogon leader dies, their body undergoes a mysterious preservation ritual involving special herbs, minerals from sacred caves, and oils extracted from plants found only in certain valleys, accessible solely to initiated tribal members, creating a flexibility in the corpse that normally disappears shortly after death. For the first 7 days following the application of these substances, the deceased is dressed in ceremonial garb and propped up in various positions throughout the village, seemingly observing important tribal meetings, greeting visitors, and even appearing to participate in nightly dance rituals, with specially trained handlers manipulating the corpse in ways that make it appear to be moving of its own accord in the flickering firelight. Most disturbing are reports from French anthropologists who documented cases where tribal members conversed with these corpses, asking them questions and then interpreting the answers from subtle movements of the head or hands caused by the drying of sinews and muscles as the preservation process continued. After this walking period, the mummies are taken to nearly inaccessible mountain caves where they are arranged in lifelike positions, creating entire chambers of preserved figures whose eyes, replaced with polished stones, seem to follow visitors through the darkness. Most terrifying are the stories told by Dogon youth who claim that during certain celestial alignments that the tribe has mysteriously tracked with astonishing accuracy for centuries, these mummies return to the village on their own. 10. The Congo's cursed fetish markets. Hidden in the shadows of bustling markets across Congo, Togo, and parts of Nigeria are the notorious red sections, secret areas where the darkest items for traditional magic are sold. Here, human skulls, bones, preserved organs, bottled blood, and even more disturbing objects are exchanged in hushed transactions. Government officials turn a blind eye, and locals refuse to speak about these places, fearing the wrath of powerful witch doctors who run them. These markets operate under strict, unwritten rules. Only recognized practitioners can access certain items, proving their status through secret handshakes, coded phrases, or ritual scars. Those who pass these tests are led through hidden passageways into back rooms, where the most dangerous objects are kept away from outsiders. Investigations by human rights groups have documented the sale of fingers, toes, ears, and other body parts, each believed to hold specific magical properties. The price depends on how the person died. Body parts from victims of lightning strikes or drowning are the most valuable, as they are thought to be charged with powerful natural energy. One of the most feared items in these markets is the night bottle, a sealed glass container filled with dark liquid. Sellers claim these bottles hold trapped spirits or demons, which can be released to torment enemies if the right ritual is performed using stolen personal items from the intended victim. Those who buy from these markets often report strange experiences almost immediately. Some claim to hear whispers from their packages on the way home, while others find that objects inside their containers have mysteriously moved. 11. The Skeleton Lake of Tanzania. High in Tanzania's remote northern mountains, far from tourist trails and accessible only through treacherous paths known to few local guides willing to make the journey, lies Lake Rupkun, a seemingly peaceful alpine lake that conceals beneath its surface one of Africa's most disturbing archaeological mysteries that continues to baffle scientists and fuel terrifying local legends about ancient sacrifices and divine punishment. When the water level drops during certain dry seasons, the lake reveals its grisly secret. Hundreds of human skeletons scattered across the bottom and around the shoreline, their bones preserved by the cold mountain water and thin air, some still wearing fragments of ancient leather and cloth, others displaying horrific crushing injuries to their skulls and shoulders as if struck simultaneously by a massive force from above. Scientific dating places these remains from approximately 850 Common Era, suggesting a massive catastrophic event killed an entire group of travellers, with genetic analysis revealing the even more perplexing fact that these individuals came from diverse geographic origins across Africa and parts of Asia, raising the disturbing question of what brought such a varied group to this remote location where they met their simultaneous end. Local tribal elders maintain that the lake contains the remains of an ancient king's procession that defied warnings not to approach the sacred mountain during a forbidden lunar alignment, bringing concubines, slaves, and treasure to perform a ritual intended to grant immortality, only to face the wrath of mountain spirits who hurled massive hailstones down upon the sacrilegious ceremony. The most unsettling aspect, reported by the few scientific expeditions that have reached the site, is the inexplicable preservation of soft tissue on some remains despite the millennium that has passed, with several researchers documenting what appeared to be expressions of terror frozen on partially mummified faces, their teeth clenched and eye sockets wide, as if capturing the final moment of realization that the ceremonial journey had become a death march. Even more disturbing are the consistent reports from expeditions that equipment malfunctions near the lake, with cameras failing, recording devices capturing unexplainable sounds, and multiple team members experiencing the same nightmare of being unable to escape rising waters while heavy objects rain from the sky, leading several scientific teams to abandon their research before completion, for reasons officially listed as logistical challenges, but privately attributed to an overwhelming sense of dread that increases with each day spent near the ancient bones. 12. The Cursed Nkisi Statues of Congo. Deep in the muddy villages of Congo, people have uncovered small wooden figures that send chills down even the bravest explorers' spines. The Nkisi statues. No taller than a child's toy, these eerie carvings hold enough dark power to make entire villages tremble when they appear under moonless skies. These aren't decorative pieces meant for display. They are terrifying wooden bodies covered in rusty nails, shards of glass, old blades, and bits of bone, each hammered in with ritual words to awaken the spirits trapped inside. As the maker's blood drips onto the wood, the spirits are fed, growing stronger with every strike. Village witch doctors create these statues for many reasons: to curse enemies, uncover thieves, heal the sick, or communicate with the dead. But the most feared Nkisi are those made for death. These statues are fed with real human blood and hair from the intended victim before being buried at a crossroads or secretly placed beneath their sleeping mat. When Western collectors took these statues without permission, strange misfortunes followed. Cars refused to start. Mysterious rashes appeared with no medical explanation. Whispers filled empty rooms, and in at least 3 recorded cases, people died exactly as the statues had been designed to curse them. Even today, hardened Congolese soldiers avoid these figures, and museum workers wear protective charms when handling them. Everyone knows the spirits inside never rest. They are always watching, waiting for the wrong nail to be pulled, so they can be set free to hunt once more. 13. The mass grave of the sacrificed twins in Ghana. Beneath the red dirt of a small hill in northern Ghana, workers digging a new well uncovered something that sent them running in terror. Not gold or treasure, but tiny bones. Hundreds of small skulls and finger bones, all belonging to twin babies who had been killed by their own families in a long-forgotten ritual that the village elders still refuse to discuss. In this part of Africa, some tribes once believed that twins were a curse, an accident the gods never intended. The village's old women would take the newborns away, searching for signs that revealed which baby carried an evil spirit. If they couldn't decide, both were killed. Their little bodies were wrapped in black cloth and secretly buried under the new moon, while grieving mothers were told their babies had died from sickness. But the most unsettling discovery wasn't just the number of bones, it was how they had been buried. Each pair of twins lay side by side, placed carefully in rows with tiny clay pots of food for their journey to the spirit world. Special beads were scattered among them, meant to keep their restless ghosts from returning to haunt the village. Some of the bones showed deep knife marks, details too disturbing for scientists to include in their official reports. One of the oldest men in the village whispered to a translator that strange things still happen on that hill. Some nights, people hear the faint cries of babies, even though no one lives nearby. Young villagers avoid the place, taking longer routes to stay far away. Those who have dared to pass through on the right kind of night speak of small shadows moving between the trees, watching, waiting, never truly gone. 14. The curse of the chained spirits in Congo. People living in small villages along the Congo River tell stories that make visitors afraid to go outside after dark. Tales of the chained ghosts that drag themselves through the tall grass at night, their legs still wrapped in the rusty iron chains from when they were taken as slaves hundreds of years ago. Their eyes glowing like tiny fires as they search the villages for anyone related to the masters who once owned them, or the neighbours who helped capture them. These aren't just made-up stories to scare children. Over 300 people have written down what they saw with their own eyes. Dark shadows of men and women moving against the wind. The sound of heavy chains scraping across dirt paths leading to the old European trading posts, where slaves were once kept before being put on ships, and the smell of salt water and blood that follows these spirits, even though the ocean is many miles away. Village hunters set up night cameras hoping to prove these were just animals, but instead caught strange foggy shapes with human outlines dragging what looks like heavy weights behind them, always moving toward the old slave paths that once led to the coast. Most scary are the stories from families who find strange marks on their doors in the morning, marks that match the old slave trader brands. And within days, someone in that house gets sick with a fever that makes them speak in forgotten languages and try to walk toward the ocean until they drop from being so tired. Doctors say it's just malaria or brain fever, but village healers tell about the only way to save someone marked by the chain ghosts. Family members must go to the old slave holding places at midnight, alone, carrying food and clean water to leave as gifts, and beg forgiveness for sins they never committed. Even as the chains drag closer through the grass around them and voices whisper names of people who died hundreds of years ago on ships bound for strange lands. 15. The petrified bodies of the Namib Desert. Travellers crossing the endless sands of the Namib Desert sometimes stumble upon a sight so strange and scary that even tough guides have been known to turn back rather than go closer. Human bodies frozen in time, their skin turned hard as leather by the burning sun and dry winds, sitting or kneeling in the sand exactly as they were when they took their last breath hundreds of years ago. These aren't bodies that someone buried, that got dug up by the wind. These people were left sitting above the ground, some in small groups facing each other as if in the middle of a meeting when death found them. Others kneeling with their arms raised to the sky, like they were begging the rain gods for water that never came. The desert kept these bodies so well that you can still see the look of fear or peace on their faces, the special marks cut into their cheeks that tell which tribe they belong to, and even the clothes they wore made from animal skins and plant fibres that should have rotted away long ago, but instead turned as hard as the bodies they cover. Scientists who finally got brave enough to study these remains found something that made no sense. Many of these people didn't die from thirst or hunger, as you would expect in the desert, but from having their hearts stop all at once while they were still healthy and strong, almost like they chose to die together through some secret ritual that we still don't understand. Most strange are the groups found sitting in perfect circles, their hands still holding small clay pots that once held special drinking potions, their faces all turned to look at the exact same point in the empty sky as if they saw something coming for them, something that local guides refused to talk about when asked, saying only that the desert keeps those who give themselves to it willingly, and that the bodies should be left where they sit because they're still watching and waiting for the right stars to return. If you made it this far, feel free to share your thoughts on these mind-blowing discoveries, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content.